This is Grand Admiral Thrawn, and if you are listening to this podcast, you have excellent taste in art.
Hey everyone, welcome back to, well, not even welcome back. Welcome into episode 1 of the new Nerds Galore podcast. I'm your host, Star Wars Gazer, my co-host Jungle Jedi down below. We have a third host, Wrath of Mandalore. However, he is vacationing with his wife, so he is off tonight. Godspeed to you, sir. Appreciate that. And today we are joined by our first guest on Nerds Galore here, Mr. Nigel Sade. How are you doing this evening?
Not bad. How are you guys doing?
Doing pretty well.
Excellent. Thank you for coming on, man. It was
thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was so cool to meet you.
Yeah.
And for us to click, I feel like we connected right away, which was awesome.
Yeah. You guys are,
it was
absolutely.
sweet.
Yeah, yeah, it was with Denver Comic Con, I believe. Right?
Yes. Yeah. Denver Fan Expo.
Right,
Fan
Expo Denver.
Yep.
Yeah.
So for those of you who are watching or will watch this in the future, you're probably thinking like Nerds Galore, wait a minute, they're on Saturday late nights. Not anymore. So we have, after my 2.5 week break, I'm back. I decided to hone in on some things that I want to do specifically. And this podcast will now be on Thursday nights. Every Thursday night, me, Jungle Jedi, and Wrath of Mandalore are going to be hosting a podcast together, and we have rebranded it to the Nerds Galore name. So super excited. This is going to be fun. We already have 6 or 7 weeks worth of guests lined up. So we are headed down the train tracks, baby. We are going. So, like I said, tonight we have Nigel Sade. He is one of the artists in Artist Alley at Denver Fan Expo that we met. Actually, my new D&D mat right here, his art is on there. We did a giveaway. Jungle Jedi did on Whatnot with one of his mats.
Received extremely well. People were like, "Whoa! Like, what is that?" Like, we've never people had never seen anything like that.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
That's amazing. Yeah, I and that's kind of what I hope for.
Yeah, it was great. It was fantastic, and I know Jungle got himself one.
It's sitting right here. I can see it. It's now a part of my main operating system. And we actually talked about the potential of doing a custom one. You can actually see the desk behind me. This thing right here. So this is a rolling cart that I use for my Whatnot streams and all my card sorting and everything. And it would be really cool to do a custom one that fit the entire top of that.
Well, I know we didn't make larger ones, but I don't think it's quite that big. So
yeah. So we'll see how it goes. We'll chat about it later. And I know that there are mats out there that are those dimensions, but I might have to twist your arm to get me to make me one you don't produce.
No, I don't think that'll be necessary.
We got Star Wars Closet in the house. Gazer hats going strong. Love you, boys. Nice to meet you, Nigel.
Oh, thanks, man. Nice to meet you guys. Well, not that we've actually met, but I'm sure we do.
Right? He's great. Star Wars Closet's great. So let's get off. Let's just start off right away. I like to ask some simple Star Wars questions, like 3 to 5 questions, just about some simple Star Wars things. So first of all, favorite Star Wars movie?
Oh my. Well, I'm gonna go with Empire. As my favorite. I think that I might go as far as to say that the best one is Revenge of the Sith, though.
Okay.
I still have the nostalgic. Empire's amazing. It's got this great, but I mean, there was something poetic about Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
That I didn't expect.
Yeah.
And actually developed over time for me. So
yeah, I get a lot of the same answer with that. Like most people's favorite is Revenge of the Sith, but they're like, my favorite, because it's so close to perfect, is Empire. Like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
Well, it was just such a great. It was such a great. It was just the right amount of screw it all up. You know what I mean? Like you've got this high point at the end of A New Hope, and then like the like the negative that comes along with it wasn't like it wasn't insulting. It wasn't it wasn't any of that kind of stuff. It just kind of did the right thing.
Yep, absolutely. I thought it was great. Great way to
Well,
go
the
in.
character's done just enough. Not too much.
Right, exactly. Who is your favorite Star Wars character?
I mean, yeah, it's hard. It's hard. I mean, Han Solo, obviously. I love Han Solo. But I mean, I love Obi-Wan too.
Yep.
Like Obi-Wan's pretty awesome. I mean, I don't know. I kind of like Obi-Wan because I mean, he's sort of this sort of idealized character. But when you really break him down, he sends a dude's kid to kill him. It's not a great optic there,
right?
Yeah. But no, I always loved But to be fair though, I love Ewan McGregor. Ewan McGregor, I've followed his career since
he's so
train spotting days.
He's so good,
and he managed to nail Alec Guinness like off the bat, like even as that kid that we see in the first in Phantom Menace, he is the high point. In the Duel of Fates, or those two things are the high points of the whole thing. I think
I was fully convinced.
Yeah,
like right away.
Yeah, and I think
you got the inflection right. You know what I mean? It was great.
Yes, it was awesome. And then just even like knowing that his real life uncle was Wedge Antilles, like, like that's stuff like that is so cool.
I did not.
From what I understand, that actor wasn't terribly like kind on the franchise at the time. Like he didn't love the idea of it, and they told Owen, I guess, don't. He's like, what do you think I should do? And he goes, don't do it.
100%. I didn't know you didn't know that, Jungle.
I did not know.
Yeah, Ewan McGregor's uncle played Wedge Antilles in the original.
Yep. Yeah, and actually, Ewan got him to come back for the final movie.
Yep. Yeah. Wow. So, and they, I've even you guys have seen it too, like them talking about Ewan. He's got like even the perfect nose shape and everything. I mean, his whole facial features are like dead on to Alec for that stuff. So love that.
It was sort of casting though. It was
right.
It was right.
It was. Okay, favorite Star Wars show, but I'm gonna break this one up. Favorite live action and favorite animation style.
Well, my favorite, I would Andor. I mean, Andor. It's hard to really compete with Andor. I mean, I'd say a second for me would be Kenobi. Actually,
okay,
I love Kenobi in a lot of ways because it. I thought it did a really great job of describing the conflict that Obi-Wan has over the entire situation. Like this is his kid, and like, can you imagine being a dad and, imagine one of your kids, turned evil and like, everybody's like, why didn't you just kill him? Yeah. Well, it's his kid, like,
right.
I mean, and like, he just can't bring himself to end his boy,
Yeah.
And that's it's just such a powerful thing. And again, Ewan McGregor, does a great job of conveying that. I thought, but like Andor is honestly, it's nearly perfect.
Yeah. One thing I was just thinking about this morning that I never thought about before in that Kenobi show, and it really made me think, was when after Obi-Wan cuts off his mask, part of his mask, he says, Anakin, right? And he says, Anakin is gone. I am what remains, right? So he says, Anakin's gone. Then he says, I'm sorry, Anakin, for all of it. And Vader's next response is, I am not your failure, Obi-Wan, right? So he's acknowledging in that split second that it's Anakin, right?
Mhm.
I am not your failure, Obi-Wan. Right? You didn't,
Yeah.
and then it switches back to Vader. You didn't kill Anakin
Yeah.
Skywalker. I
Showing
did.
that kind of dichotomy between that character.
Yes. I was
Yeah.
like, dude,
Flip flopping.
yeah, he's in that quick split second, he's flip flopping.
And I would like to point out that like that Hayden Christensen, that guy is a if you're an actor, pay attention to him, okay? Because here's a guy that went and did a thing and did it not terribly great, in episode 2. All right, like he wasn't an ideal representation of that character. He was trying to do certain things which didn't translate the way that he hoped that they would. In the backlash that he received for that, instead of it turning him terrible, he went back to acting school. He threw himself into the craft of acting, and Revenge of the Sith, he does a great job.
Yeah.
And now, like that scene where he switches between Anakin and Vader in Ahsoka,
Yes.
was, I mean, just in one, his facial expressions alone were astounding. And so, like, I have nothing but respect for Hayden Christensen when it comes to like a person who has this self motivation to notice a criticism for its ability to change a person, like that.
Yeah.
As opposed to, he didn't take it as an attack, even though a lot of them were attacks.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. That's a problem that we all have to deal with.
Yeah.
But he took it to a positive place.
Yeah. And for me, the Ahsoka show is like my favorite live action, I think. I love those scenes with Anakin and Snips.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, that when he's like, I gave you choice to live or die. And she's like, no. And he's like, incorrect.
Yes.
Like he's in his Sith mode and the light. I was like, dude, this is so cool. Like, this is unreal.
That episode is nasty, dude.
Oh, I loved it. It was so good.
So
good.
Kenobi is a second only for I've seen, I think, the end episodes where they actually fight and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's some aspects of Kenobi that I was like, I'm not sure if I really like that or not, but it is what it is. So, okay. So your favorite live action is, you said, Andor.
Yeah.
Andor. I'll admit, not been a big Andor fan until those last 6 episodes. Those last 6 episodes kicked butt. I'm not gonna lie.
Really?
Yes.
That's interesting.
And I don't know if it's just because I don't know. I like the action. I just do the action of Star Wars. And I get like this is like a very slow political burn. Go ahead, Jungle. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. I want to hear what you're saying. Because like I'm in this weird like middle ground where I really like Andor, but I also see where both parties are coming from.
Yeah.
I loved the first season. I actually a few years ago when it came out and I'd seen it, there was a high school kid that I was coaching at the time, and he brought it up in one of the practices. He said, "What do you think about Andor?" And I said, "I think it's a masterpiece." And I said that about the first season. And I loved the first season. I've watched it multiple times. But when people were saying that it was slow and boring, I understood what they meant.
Well, Star Wars is so action packed,
Right. Even George talks about like the originals. It's all about movement.
Right.
Movement, right? It's all about, and whenever I watched Andor and I saw what people were saying, I started thinking about it, and then I watched what George was saying about this is what Star Wars is. It's all about movement and this, and I was like watching it again, and I was like, this is why half the fan base thinks it's slow and boring, because they're used to this like really fast clip.
Yeah,
and it's like boom, boom, boom. I mean, the way that like Star Wars, the original trilogy, is edited and shot, I mean, yeah, there's not a dull moment in all of it. Like it's always just engaging you, and just building. Whereas Andor, and it also is like the long show format. they're diving into, it's like expect lore, expect to be walked through the lore.
Yeah.
And that is what Andor is. You know, let's dive in, zoom in, and let's look very closely at the lore behind the rebellion and how it was grown from this point to this point. And I think it's exceptional. Like cinematically, the writing is incredible. You know, like the biggest problem that I had with the sequels is that I felt like the writing was atrocious, right? And some of it's written like okay, and then some of the dialogue for me especially, I'm like, you guys just missed it. And then you look at the writing of Andor and you're like, this is incredible. And it's like, this is what I wanted. That I wanted them to be writing it like that, you know. So that's one of the reasons that I personally fell in love with Andor right away, is because the writing was so good and it was so cinematic and all of that.
That's good. That's good. We got some new people real quick.
Oh, good.
We got SW Mini Build says, "Yo, what's up?" Django Fett sent me. Thank you for doing that. Asked us what's up. We got Clone Force, Wonder to know where's Wrath on vacation. And we got some Andor episodes are peak Disney Star Wars, and others were so boring. Yeah, I can see that.
Again, I think you're right. There's a whole connection between the motions of things, but like Andor attempted to do an emotional motion.
Yeah,
you know, like keeping you intellectually stimulated throughout a thing, as opposed to just the action of a thing. And so, like for some people, it just didn't take, you know.
Yeah.
And that was always going to happen.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I'm not like, I don't dog on any of that. I just you know, like I think that's
everybody.
That's what Jungle was just saying. For me, growing up on like the original trilogy and then prequels, like it's action. It's bam, 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 all the way down the line. So, Bryant says another thing about Andor, what makes it look so beautifully shot was the practical sets instead of using volume. Let's see.
Yeah.
Andor is a thinking man's Star Wars show. You have to be able to process it and understand the lore and the scenes. Yeah. Yep.
Mhm.
I can see that. Yeah. So Andor, favorite live action. What is your favorite animation?
I'm gonna say Rebels. You know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, the thing is, I absolutely adored Rebels. And I remember actually the beginning of it, I was like, nah, I don't think I'm gonna like this, you know, because it was all about the animation style and that feeling of like Aladdin, you know, that like came along with.
Yeah.
I mean, even the intro felt like, you know, Aladdin, you know,
Right.
and so it was one of those things. But then it very quickly, you know, won me over. Actually, the very first, I think it's the first episode where you've got the Inquisitor that pops in, and the two refectory people, like literally almost on scene, and I was like, oh, this is not a kids film.
No.
This is not made for children, but children are going to watch it. But yet it was on the children networks, and I was like, wow, that was bold, Disney. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's good.
And it only gets better. That's the cool thing, is that like I had the same feeling. Like I was like, oh god, because you come off the tail of like watching like 7 seasons of Clone Wars, and it's incredible, and then suddenly the animation's different, and you're like, what gives? Like, why don't just do it in the same animation style? That got in my way for sure. But I was like, it's Star Wars. Like, I'm gonna watch it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
the more I went along, the more I was like, oh my gosh, this is like.
Yeah, I actually did it the other way around. Like I didn't watch all of Clone Wars until after I watched all of.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So for me, like I had some issues with so I watched the Clone Wars stuff that came out on MTV back in the day. And like, so like when they redid it, there was the movie that came out, which was not lovely.
It wasn't
in my
good.
yeah, not in my opinion. Although apparently, did you hear that? Like they're bringing that character back. Yeah, Like he's apparently supposed to be in the Mandalorian and Grogu, all like jacked and shit.
Yeah. No, there's a shot. There's actually a shot you can find on the internet of him in like a fight ring, and he's like flexing like this.
What's his name again?
Rata the Hutt.
Yeah, Rata the Hutt. Rata the Hutt.
Yeah, like they call Snips calls him Stinky.
Yeah,
and she's got him in the backpack, like trying to get him back to Jabba. It's Jabba's kid. But yeah, apparently he's gonna be like a major player in the Mandalorian and Grogu movie.
Mm-hmm. Which is great. I mean, again, and the Mandalorian was a wonderful introduction. I mean, again, the two of those guys, Favreau and Filoni, they have done a successful job in revitalizing a thing that needed that vitality, in a lot of ways. I mean, I think that Disney did what they were supposed to do with movies like Rogue One and Solo.
100%.
But yeah, that's it. Yeah, right.
Yeah, the two.
Yeah, those are the same dude.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Nice.
But I think that they did a great job. I mean, Rogue One is a war movie set in the Star Wars universe. Okay,
yeah. Rogue One is dope, dude.
Yeah, and Solo is a heist movie set in the Star Wars universe. And again, as long as you look at them, and I feel like that's where Star Wars needed to go. In a lot of ways.
Yeah.
It was this idea that like you can use Star Wars as a backdrop to tell a compelling story that is just a story. I want to see a love story done in the Star Wars universe. You know what I mean? I want to see I want to see a sports film. I want to see a political intrigue thing. We've already got that with Andor, but like you get what I mean. Like I want to see these. I want to see a horror film done in Star Wars. Like I mean, these it is such a lovely sort of backdrop.
Yeah, they did that with Skeleton Crew.
Yeah.
Let's do Amblin.
Exactly. Let's do Goonies in space.
I was gonna say Goonies in space, 100%.
Let's do it. Yeah, and great. That's wonderful. And it came through exactly as that.
Yeah, 100%. I want to ask, because you brought up that one of your favorite characters is Han Solo. For me, I loved the Solo movie, and I think it's super underrated.
Absolutely adored it.
Okay, cool. I was gonna ask, how would you think of Eldon playing Han Solo?
At first, I was a little off, but honestly, it was everything around him.
Yeah.
I felt like I liked him because he introduced. I mean, as long as the actor can transform into Harrison Ford, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, as long as he can become that guy as an actor, like, great. That's fantastic, because what he's representing is this naive version of Han Solo. Like, he's not jaded yet, he still has hope in the universe. And at the end of that movie is when we start to see the transformation into this cynical guy who has to discover hope again later in A New Hope.
Yep. 100%. That is so good.
Which is cool that he, like, that's why I think he's so good, is that you see him in a totally different way, and you see the transformation throughout the film. You see him go there, right? Because he's young.
He's a baby in because he's literally like at that point in time, what, tops 21?
Yeah. I mean, at the end of that movie, he's like, "Hey, let's go talk to Jabba," right? Like him.
And so that's when he begins his career. And so he's supposed to work for Jabba for a while,
long time,
and and so he was a baby, coming into that. I also love that. Like, as soon as he gets his hands on the Falcon, he just beats the shit out of it. Like
100%.
He
loses the pod immediately.
I just think that like they really nailed all of the tropes of the character that we all needed to remember that's who he is.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The Falcon wasn't the best damn ship in the universe.
No.
It wasn't even a good ship. You know,
No.
it was
It was damaged heavily, and he still goes back for it at the end. You know,
exactly. That's what I mean. Like he's just in love with the idea of this ship, you know, and they did a good job of making those connections. You know, like there's a certain section of it where it's his dad worked on the line, you know, that made those ships, you know, and stuff like that. Like it's. And did you guys catch that? Like the ship that he brags about having is the Ghost.
Wait, what?
When?
Yeah, no, he says that he has a VCX 100.
And that's the same. Oh my god!
I didn't even catch that.
Yeah,
I had no idea. That's
why Lando's like, oh, it's a quality ship because he's actually been on the Ghost. So, you know.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know it's funny when I listen to the Heir to the Empire. There's a couple of scenes where Han and Lando are going back and forth, and they bring up the ship again.
Mm-hmm.
And Lando's like, I didn't expect you to choose when the game, like I told you in the Sabacc game, you could have, you know, we could put any ship you wanted of mine in the pile, and out of all ships, you chose that ship. Like I wasn't expecting you to choose that ship. Like,
yeah,
I wanted you to take one of the shiny ones, you know, like.
Yeah, but no, I love it. I just love and again, it ends up becoming the fastest ship in the fleet because it's like supercharged. Yeah. You know, like it's a super.
Oh, he's hot rodded the thing.
It's hot rodded the thing to the point where it just blows the engine every 5 seconds. You know, and like that's great. You know, that is a perfect. It is literally the ship becomes a descriptor of his life. You know,
right? In
a lot of ways, like he has literally just never accepted defeat.
Right.
You know, ever. You know.
Yeah,
and just ridiculousness, absurdity, you know, is what he's lived on his entire life, and it's I love the character, you know, for that exact reason. Like he there's no point when he gives up, you know.
Yeah, even when he meets like Vader for the first time in Cloud City, immediately takes out his blaster and starts trying to shoot him. Like doesn't even like
that's the most feared mother. Yeah, that is the
right.
Yeah. And it's like immediately engages him.
Mm-hmm. It's like you have no chance in hell of even hitting him, but he's just he like literally blocks it with his hand. You know,
palms that shit.
I love that. I love that he is that. I mean, honestly, though, from just a perspective of like. What is Vader got to think about him? You know, like right at the end, like if Vader were sitting around going, "Hey, hold on a second, this dude shows up at my job, all right, with my daughter and my son and both of the damn droids that I had and my old master, and then blows up my job's building, you know, with my kids." Like that's
that must have been the guy that blew up that shot us up and let Luke blow up the Death Star.
Exactly. It's like, later on, and then he comes to the first time that you meet the parents and he shoots you. You know. Right.
Can you imagine after Return of the Jedi?
Like
now that Anakin's a Force ghost, he like sees Han and Han's like, "Hey."
Hey,
hey, Dad.
Hi, Mr. Skywalker.
He's like low-key respect,
right?
Sorry about how we met. You know, I wasn't really intending that.
So let's kind of get into. We got about half hour here. Let's kind of move into the art side. I know Jungle said he's got some questions he's kind of wanting to ask.
Absolutely.
So let's start off with this. What got you started into art? How long you been doing it? What got you started on that? And kind of take us on your journey.
Okay, so it was about 20. It was 2003. However long that was ago. 22 years, something like that. I was I was studying genetics in university, and in between my undergraduate and my graduate degree, I had decided to show my artwork because I had done a final project in my art class that I spent like 7.5 years in my undergraduate because I'm that guy. And so I decided to so I did this recreation of Bartolomeo Pazzarotti's two-headed figure, which is this really cool pencil sketch of this kind, gentle man whose face is being overshadowed by this like almost werewolf-like beast.
Okay.
And so and you got the tongues out, and there's like spit coming out and stuff like that. And then behind him, you see this really kind, gentle man, and it's called the two-headed figure, and it's about how the kinder, gentler side of man is often overshadowed by the beast. Later on, became sort of this piece about werewolves and alcoholism and things like that. And so I did it, and really all I did was I just tightened up the hatching on all of it and recreated the piece in that sort of way. And the response to it was so overwhelmingly positive that I decided that, maybe I didn't suck and I was going to show my artwork while I was applying to grad school. That was 20 some years ago. All right. So I went to a couple of shows, and here I am. I never went back to grad school. I never finished my genetics stuff that I was working on.
Gotcha.
But I came down this path, and like I was never any good at being an illustrator. If you gave me something to do that was in your head, it was usually the last thing you were going to get. I'm that kind of guy. But that was kind of the saving grace for me in my career. I decided that I was going to focus in on doing artwork that was important to me, and hopefully everybody kind of came along with it.
It seems like when you do that, when you do the thing that you care the most about, it ends up being the thing that we all want and need the most. That's pretty cool.
That's one of the things that I discovered, is that everybody wants art, and art is beauty on one side, which is, and that's the aesthetic that comes along with it. But art is also emotion, and it's all of those kinds of things. So I mean, like when I actually started with my daughter, for her birthday, she wanted a pretty ballerina for her birthday, and so I drew her this picture called "Make Me Pretty," which is this ballerina that's like a Frankenstein monster sort of thing that's being held up by strings, and she's being puppeted and whatnot. And there's these silhouettes on each side of people that are kind of looking at her, and the idea behind it was people telling you, act like this, dress like this, do these things, then you'll be pretty. But in reality, to be beautiful is just to be yourself. Because with my family, we're not small people, so I didn't know where my daughter was going to end up, and I didn't want to give her a piece of artwork that was going to hurt her in the future. So I just decided to make it about something that was important, a lesson I wanted to teach my daughter. And the response to that piece was so universally gratifying that it changed the entire mode of how I decided to move forward. Before that, I kind of tried to do the whole thing where you're like, oh, well, what do people want? And that kind of thing. And after that, I was just like, what do people need?
Yeah, that's next level.
And that led me to doing a lot of the artwork that I do. And then when I came back to wanting to do more things in sort of like the fandom sphere, I kind of took that idea and sort of moved forward with it. I don't do things just for the sake of doing them. Like I'm doing, like I have a whole series of Art Deco starships and whatnot. And they're specifically organized around the idea that like the concept of the art form Art Deco is the visions of the future. All right, so like the Chrysler building was the building of the future. The bullet train was the train of the future. And so today, in a post science fiction world, though, I feel like it's impossible to see the future without seeing it through the lens of our science fiction. So my whole series, which is called the Visions of the Future, is about how do we see the future nowadays? Like, is it Star Wars? Is it Star Trek? Is it Doctor Who? Is it, like what brand of fandom is it that like you feel like is your future? And people gravitated towards it, for multiple reasons. Some because they love that idea behind it, but others because it's cool and it's, this is the Millennium Falcon. This is that, which is also awesome. Like I feel like that's the getting, however you get to art is irrelevant. Getting to art is the important part.
Yeah.
So,
that's good. That's
thanks.
good.
Thanks.
I love the Art Deco style. So it really resonated with me right away because I spent 10 years living in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and met my wife there. And I really love that city. And architecturally, there is a lot of Art Deco there.
Really?
Specifically in downtown. There's a ton of it. And there's also some in the south part of town on Oral Roberts University, bunch of weird, like futuristic stuff. So for me, whenever I saw your work, it immediately clicked. And I didn't really know why. I didn't go, oh yeah, Art Deco. You know what I mean? And like my dad is a high school art teacher and has been since 1998,
Right.
So like I've grown up in the art room, like art history, like, like I've had my hands on everything. I'm an artist as well. And like, I know this stuff. And like, I didn't even understand that whenever I saw your work, and it just like allured me in right away. I was like at your table, just like, I don't even know why I'm here, but it's awesome. Like,
well, I'm glad that you came. And honestly, art is just that. It is, however it brings you in, is where it's at. It's like, as long as it brings you in and has the substance to keep you there.
Yeah, I mean, I was just standing there looking at everything. I liked your setup. Your booth was really cool because not only did you have like all your mats set out in like an L on the table, but then you also had like everything up behind you on like, were they like aluminum or what was the like, do you have like metal plates that you have stuff on?
Yeah. So we do a metal print. We do an aluminum print. And then we also do these banners. And so the banners, which were the big tall guys that were. Those are sort of, the Cadillac of prints that we have. But the metals are also just this great medium to like show off, that kind of thing, especially with the Art Deco, or stained glass type looking things. It just really, really drives it forward. So,
I that really grabbed me because I was like, okay, he's got like the same style that he's putting on different in different scenarios, right? And so it gives your work depth, and your work already has this depth, like the piece that I really loved that I ended up purchasing is you can correct me on the name of it, but it was like the journey of Anakin Skywalker or something like that.
The Path of Anakin,
Path of Anakin, and it's like it shows like episode 1, like with the N1 Naboo starfighters, and it's this whole scene with the Trade Federation like droid ship, and it makes us think, oh yeah, he did that thing where he was like, you stay in that cockpit, and then he goes and he activates it, and
now this is pod racing.
Yeah, the name of that piece is actually, he said stay in the cockpit.
He said stay in the cockpit, exactly. And then it moves on.
That's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, so that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna blow some shit up while I'm at it, And then and then you've got that Revenge of the Sith reference where it's like this is where the fun begins, with him and Obi-Wan and the Jedi Starfighters, and then it's like, and then so this is all in the same like sequence of like all movement happening, which again speaks to Star Wars. Like you can see the movement, and then it has like the Empire stuff with like his tie and all the ships there for the Empire and Star Destroyers and everything like that. And it's just, I was like, you cooked me, dude. Like,
I like to think of that because it's actually 3 separate pieces. It's called He Said Stay in the Cockpit. Always 2 there are is the middle one, and then We Can End This Destructive Conflict is the
wow,
final.
that's so cool.
And so the idea is that it's like a bell curve of slavery. There's never a point where Anakin's not a slave.
It's true.
It's just that that bit in the middle, he's choosing to serve.
Yeah.
Wild.
That's cool. What is, out of curiosity, because I couldn't remember the name, what is the name of the one I got, the Millennium Falcon?
That was called Punch It. So
Punch It. Yeah.
And actually, if you look at the bottom of it, the Arabic that I put on it says Punch It. So
okay, cool.
Nice.
Heck yeah, I love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, no, the Millennium Falcon was one of the 2 first pieces that I put together in this whole concept, and it was just a joke to begin with. I wanted to do a TIE fighter that had the Imperial logo as the windshield, essentially.
Oh, that's sick. That's sick.
So I just put like I made it an H. It was like very abstracted and whatnot. And then I was like, what can I do with the rebel symbol? And I was like, oh, if I put this little bit off to the side, it kind of looks like the Millennium Falcon. So I made the Millennium Falcon out of the rebel symbol, and then everybody's like, hey, can you do that in this? And I was like, I think I can.
Yeah.
So, and they slowly but surely evolved into what you guys have now.
Yeah.
It was just kind of the crescendo in all it was.
Yeah. I love it. So one of the things I wanted to bring up, and we had started talking about this before we actually went live. Jungle wasn't here for it, but the effects of AI on art and kind of like your thoughts on that. Because Jungle, I was telling them about yours, and Battle Pack's conversation that we were talking about, like is there going to be another Renaissance kind of a thing? And so I wanted to bring that back up and kind of get, Nigel, your thoughts on kind of that whole sphere of things.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the way that it's currently going forward. I don't think that the concept of AI is a bad idea. It's just that there's a lot of moral ambiguousness. That's not ambiguity. That's
ambiguity.
There's a lot of moral ambiguity that like surrounds the idea of AI right now. You can't do it without stealing from another person. And I'm not worried. I know we were talking about this earlier. I'm not really worried about the guy that's like, making characters for his Dungeons and Dragons campaign and stuff like that. That's not the person. That's the bad guy in this entire situation. It's when you're attempting to remove the illustrator from the equation, which is what can be done with AI. And the way that it's being done is by, in essence, stealing the artwork from me and my colleagues. You can't do it without that giant database of stolen artwork. It's just impossible to make it. And I honestly don't know a one of us that would be upset if it was just people making, things for their characters, that wouldn't be an issue for any of us. Because I mean, the person that's going to make that commission has a disposable income for things like that like other people just don't have, and those people are still buying things. That's not the issue. It's the corporate aspect of things that really is where things kind of begin to go south, and we as artists, those of us that are doing things that are much more meaningful and stuff like that, we're all going to survive. It's really my friends that are, purely illustration, that are the ones that I worry about. The people that I feel like are going to suffer the most throughout this entire thing is that piece of, motion, that type of artist is necessary,
Yeah.
And it's a glass castle. I mean, you got this giant database of things that are out there, but without the artists, the database begins to be the same stuff that is based on the stuff that's from the artist, and so like you get where there's a recursive problem.
It gets stale,
and eventually everything becomes so homogenous that like you're not going to get anything creative out of anything.
Yeah.
And so, but capitalism being what it is, we don't really think about that until it's too late.
Yeah. Bryant says same thing Steve Grad said about AI authenticating autographs in the future. That's sort of scary. I wonder where the future for artists, movies, creators will go in 10 years.
Right now, one of the nice things that has happened, and I don't often praise the judicial system for things that they do, but they did manage to accidentally do something really clever. They basically just said that you can't copyright AI right now. All right. And so as a result, that puts a little bit of a cap on what's happening right now. Like, you're not going to have places like, like Fox or Disney or something like that are going to start relying on AI, or even like, role-playing games and stuff like that. Nobody's going to rely on AI because you can't copyright any of it.
You can only copyright original work. Yeah.
Yep. And so there will be a time when that goes away. There'll be people that do workarounds, for stuff like that. I mean, like Disney eventually will have a database of previous work that is so large that they own that they'll be able to do predictive modeling off of that database and stuff like that. Like these are
all of it. So it's,
these are all the things that will happen. Like Disney will be able to create things like Disney in perpetuity forever. And that's a thing that I think that is outside of that legal framework. Like they're allowed to copyright that because they own everything that was used to make it. So those are the worries that I have, with it. Like I feel like as artists, it's our job to meet this challenge in a lot of ways, in the only way that we can, and that is to start adding emotion into everything we do.
Yep.
Because the AI cannot create emotion.
Nope.
It can hope it will get good at trying to mimic it, but it's not going to. It's not going to do it in the way that we will. I made there are people that try to age alcohol, okay, by using wood chips instead of using barrels, okay, because the surface area of the wood is so much greater and so on and so forth. And you can add pressure to it then as well to try to age that alcohol faster, So you can do so broad strokes of what you can do in 15 years in like 6 months, or something like that.
Like a scotch or something.
Yeah, but the reality is that nothing that's ever produced that way is as complex as what you get when you allow time to do its thing. And we, the artists, are that concept of time.
Yep.
That complexity that we add to the artwork is intrinsic to a very beautiful product, yeah.
That's
so
that's compelling. Yeah.
You can't rush something like that. Like it's not able to be done. And we may get close, but you're not going to nail it. You're going to create something that is artificial.
Yeah.
And that's what we've been doing.
Yeah.
So.
Emotion and time. You guys, no matter what happens, true artists are in control of the time and the emotion aspect of it. Jungle, we got about 10 minutes left here. You have any other questions you wanted to ask him? It looks like you have a little like notepad over there, some questions possibly. So
yeah, I do. So a few questions. Well, first thing, just to kind of curtail off of that and kind of segue into this, but like, my hope is that the original art will actually increase in value because people will know the difference, and there will be so much out there that isn't, and then they'll start going, okay, we want the real thing, so sort of in contrast to that, like, oh man, like it's scary that work is going away and going into that AI, the value of this other work is going to go up. That's usually how things happen anyway. And I think that will occur. But my questions are more kind of art nerdy.
Do it.
So right now, the style that we've seen is that Art Deco style. Is that a native style for you at this point? Is that something that you automatically go to, or do you have some other work that's like more of a native thing?
No, more of the native stuff that I do would be things like my modern day atrocities, the oil paintings that I do. Like here, I'll show you. Hold on.
Please do.
Like all of these guys here are like paintings that I've been. Do I have anything? No, I don't have anything over there. But like those are a couple of paintings that I've been working on and whatnot. But like the so like this woman here. So if you can see in that, sort of thing. So this is more of the standardized stuff that I work on personally. But like the Art Deco sort of aspect of things is all based off of like these tattoos, and stuff like that. When I was a kid, I did this kind of symbolic, abstracted sort of thing.
It was too.
Yeah, it was pretty heavily influenced by like tribal tattoo artwork and whatnot. But things like that, that Millennium Falcon and the Path of Anakin and stuff like that, those are all the practical upshots of that tattoo design sort of style. It's just an accidental experiment in a lot of ways.
Totally. What if we did this?
Right, and I've always loved Art Nouveau and Art Deco and stuff like that, and so like those kinds of things just eventually started coming out, as they do whenever you attempt to go down a more mosaic sort of path. Like that's the artistic expression of a mosaic is often Art Deco or Art Nouveau. So.
Totally. Yeah, because it has a lot of structure, right? Like it's like, here's your structure. You really have to kind of fit that creativity and that expression into this, whereas like your native style, you can kind of do whatever you want, right? Like,
although to be fair, there's a lot of opportunity in Art Nouveau, especially to tell a story,
that's what I like.
Centralized character, which is the whole thing, and then you've got the story that occurs around it. So
I love that. What inspirations do you have? I mean, outside of Star Wars, I know that there are like artists get inspiration from everywhere, right? So like, what are some of the main kind of attachment points that you have for inspiration?
Well, I mean, I've always loved sci-fi. Sci-fi, fantasy, and stuff like that is an intrinsic part of my life. Star Wars was kind of the oldest of those, I would say. Star Trek I loved as well, but not in the way that I love Star Wars. And then I discovered Doctor Who later on, and honestly, I just fell in love with Doctor Who, mostly probably because of my own belief sets and stuff like that. I'm a pacifist, I don't like violence and stuff like that. And so as a result, I gravitated towards one of the two television programs that had a pacifist, which was either Doctor Who or MacGyver. And really, there's that.
Yeah, you can think your way out of situations and
it turns out that this up here and this awesome,
powerful,
best weapons you'll ever have.
Totally. Yeah, it's funny because I'm with you on that. I would rather make peace than war. But I'm also like a martial artist, and I have been my entire life, and so it's this funny dichotomy where like I'm prepared to defend myself extremely well. But I'm going to use this and this first, and I will take that as far as it will go. And if I have to, then I will, and
on this side of 50, let me just say there's a bell curve that goes along with that. I've done the same sort of thing. I went down the path where I thought that, what happens if this doesn't work? Sure. And then the further that you go along, you realize just how effective this actually is. You learn all this other stuff and stuff like that. And the act of learning that stuff is actually important and intrinsic to the development of this because you know what can happen.
Right.
And as a result, you want this to work so much more, And you can do wonders with it. It is the most powerful thing that we have. This thing we got up here.
Yeah, man, that's good, man. That's good. So just out of curiosity, are there any other artists that you hold in high regard, have modeled in the past and used to develop your own styles and techniques? And who are they?
Yeah. So I would say that my strongest influence is Dali. I absolutely adore Dali. I've been to every I've been well, you know what? And there's not a bad museum. And because I've been to all of them now. So and I just recently went to the one in Figueres, so as his hometown. Which is more of an installation than I would call whatever. And actually went to his house and for my 50th birthday actually.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and amazing. And I'll tell you, if you haven't had a chance to go there, go there.
I haven't.
It is wonderful. In the wintertime, it's super cheap to go anywhere in Europe. So, and also in the wintertime, other people aren't there. So, you get to go to the places you want to do and you don't have to worry about all the crazy crowds and stuff like that.
That's amazing. Yeah. I've been to Europe 3 times and
never been.
Never
been. I would love to.
I live there now. So
what you're telling us is if we took a trip out there, like a guy's trip,
you
say hi to Nigel.
You can come crash at my place.
I'm
in Lucca, Italy. So it's
Italy's terrible. It's terrible. People don't go there. People.
Italians.
Food is terrible. There's nothing to look at.
Nothing to do. That magic Tuscan soil. So but I mean, aside from Dali, I would say Degas and Bosch are probably like the core of it. But I would go as far as people like Klimt, and Mucha and stuff like that are really starting to emerge as people that I find have developed into inspiration for me. And that's where we get the art deco and stuff like that.
Yeah. No, that's super interesting. I was curious. That's always something that I'm like very curious about is like what's inspiring you? I think of this quote all the time from Dali that's learn to paint like the masters and then you can do whatever you want.
Really? You said that? Because I have been telling people that my entire career. So
that came from Dali. I have one of his I have a book that's like super thick, big book that's like one of my favorite like coffee table books, and it's a Dolly book, and it's got all his pieces in it, and it's got all these quotes and these things, and it's history, and
Right.
he said that, and that is always just like resonating with me all the time. It's like, okay,
Yep.
learn the fundamentals, and then you can improvise. You know,
Well, that's the thing. Like if you can look at this throughout history. What happened?
Nothing. We're
Oh,
good.
okay.
We're good.
Yeah.
We're good.
I just became the entire screen.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened.
As people talk, I want sometimes to let them have the screen, let them have the floor.
Right. Yeah. So for what was I saying? I'm sorry, it distracted me.
well, you tell people all the time, about like once you learn the fundamentals,
right.
you can do whatever, you can improvise, you can do whatever you want.
You can, and like if you can see this in art, and if you look at Jackson Pollock, for instance, okay, I'm not a huge fan of the whole paint splatter sort of movement and stuff like that as well, but if you look at his work and you compare it to anything else, Pollock was a trained artist. He knew what he was doing, and that comes through in his work. Picasso's the same way. Picasso was a brilliant artist, and Picasso chose to try to show all sides of an object at one point in time, and that's what he was attempting to do. All of these people studied art. It's only a modern malady, I think, that we're not learning how to mimic their masters.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. It's funny because Pollock understands composition, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's what you're seeing come forward, right? Like you're
Mhm.
seeing him compose something
Mhm.
in a way where he's taking chaos and sort of making order out of it. And, anyone who tries to mimic that doesn't understand that, like it doesn't look the same, right? So
No, it's literally just paint splatter.
it's just
At that
paint
point.
splatter, but he's doing it in a way. And if you
Mhm.
know how to look for that, you know how to see that, you're like, oh yeah, okay, it's genius. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. No, they're all brilliant. And
mm,
again, like those kinds of like aphorisms and stuff like that, like are such an important thing in life. This idea of learn to mimic the masters, and then you can choose to be whoever you want to be. My grandmother used to tell me, she had two pieces of information that she gave me, like aphorisms, and that was if you lend somebody $20 and you never see that person again, that was money well spent. And always tell the truth, because then you never have to remember what you said. Because I mean, like, yeah. And these are all beautiful things to live by, and that's the way that I look at that statement from Dali. Is that like, it just makes perfect sense whenever you say it out loud. It's like, yes, you know what you're doing now. You can choose to break the rules anytime you want to, but knowing all the rules first and then breaking them,
Yep.
that's got a value to it. So.
Yeah. No, I was thinking about it today because I was like, oh, like you can take, for example, I was actually thinking about Picasso
Mhm.
and then thinking about it through the lens of like doing the Loomis head and taking the Loomis head and drawing something that's like proportionally perfect, but then warping it intentionally, right? Like I was thinking of it in this way of being like, oh, I'm going to warp it intentionally, and I'm going to do it in a way that's going to convey an emotion that I want, and then I'm going to color and shade it in a way that's going to convey that same emotion. It's going to give it depth, right? So like this is how I, was just using Picasso and the Loomis process to like kind of inspire me, and I didn't even do anything with that, but think about it,
Yeah.
So,
but again, and that's half of being an artist.
Yep.
So.
I don't know what he's referencing here. Maybe you guys do.
Oh wait, what? Oh.
What's the appeal? Oh, the duct tape banana. You mean the okay? Yeah. So here's the thing. Like there is a type of art that sort of took over right around Warhol, that like is all about performance. It is performance art is still an art. Okay, like I mean, I'm not against that sort of concept, but we keep on mixing the two, the visual arts and the performance art together, and we really can't. And so the problem is that the popular view of art has been usurped pretty heavily by performance art. That non-permanence. You look at all the Warhols and stuff like that; they're like disintegrating at this point in time because they were never done, properly, and they were never, never meant to last. And then you get people like Banksy who destroys their artwork as part of the performance and stuff like that. And so like there's definitely a value to the performance,
right,
and the memory of said performance. But like I don't know that we're talking about the same things.
We're not.
And so like the banana,
it becomes a meme.
Yeah, exactly. Or there's this one guy that does planes of field and stuff like that, and like a ping pong table is what it looked like, and like it sold for $1 million. And again, just because something sells for a lot of money doesn't mean anything.
No.
It's those status symbols are still status symbols. I always I come back to like wines and stuff like that. Like wines are a good example of this. Like there are some vintages that have never been tasted, and so is it good? Nobody knows. But the vintage itself has this theme, to it, and so anything that's produced, and so like they end up selling everything except for And maybe it's terrible. Maybe it's awful. But I feel like in art we can look at it and go, it's kind of terrible. But that's an opinion based on what we're saying. Yes, if we were just looking at that banana as it makes it so terrible to say out loud. But if you're just looking at that banana from the point of view of visual expression, then that's one thing, you know what I mean? But like, that's not the intention of that banana. The banana is a part of a performance that was there. Yeah. I think that we would be better off trying to recognize that performance art is closer to movies than it is to painting, and that's got its own intrinsic value that you can do with it,
Yeah.
As opposed to, trying to like lump it all together, and make that performance equate to persistence of memory or Michelangelo, or whatever.
Persistence of memory. Yeah. Persistence of memory. If you guys don't know that piece, look it up. It's incredible. I mean, that's a master's work.
Yeah.
That's an actual masterwork.
Yeah.
And who's to say that these performances aren't masterworks? Some of them are, but
they are a different genre.
Yeah. And some of it is kind of this ironic destruction of the societal norm that these artists are attempting to do in order to make a point. But I feel like if that point is lost in money, then they failed,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Nigel, thank you for joining us tonight. We're it's crazy that we're already at an hour. Like I can't even this is insane. It always happens. Every time we have a really good conversation, I'm like, oh, it's been an hour. It's been an hour and a half already. What the crap, man?
Well, I'll talk to you guys about it some other time. We'll try to circle back around.
We'll definitely have you back on. We definitely that's another thing that we're trying to do is like reoccurring guests. So we'd love to have you back on. One thing I wanted to ask you before you leave, being an artist yourself, to any young artists out there who are wanting to, make that a career choice or what have you, what is a message for those young artists out there that you would want to tell them?
I would say that art is important. Okay. And don't get bogged down in what that means. If you have that obsession that like makes you paint or draw all the time, then figure out a way to make money at it, because you're probably never going to do something else. Okay.
Yeah.
But if you can't, if you find yourself being blocked, at times and stuff like that, that isn't a bad thing. It just means that maybe your path in art is a different path. We need people that teach. We need people that explain. We need people that go back and look at historical, art and like bring it to the world and stuff like that. And like you can still do and be an artist without going down this crazy stupid path. Like this is a crazy person. You know what I mean? And if you're that crazy person, great. Fantastic. Do your thing. But if you're not that crazy person, please don't give up on art.
Right.
Art is so much more than this very narrow and minuscule piece of it.
Yeah, that's great.
Art is life.
I love it. Tell people before we leave where they can find you, where they can follow you.
Yes. If you go to nigelsade.com, so just my name.com, or studiodesade.com as well, will get you to everything. And then there's a bunch of links to get you to my various other places and stuff like that. Awesome. So, but yeah, that's pretty much. If you go to Nigel Sade anything, it's me. So,
I love it. Yeah. Nigel, thank you so much again for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you guys very much. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Jungle.
We appreciate you a lot, man. It was so good to get to know you and to have some of your work on my desk right here, be a part of like my whole process and my whole hobby and love and work, and just thank you. Absolutely.
No, thank you guys for coming by.
Yeah.
Like you guys are all part of a family of people that kind of keep art alive, in that sort of realm of the world. I think that it's beautiful that we've come so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, we will have you on again. We follow each other on Instagram now. We'll keep in touch and stay close. So right, thank you.
Absolutely. And if you have a link to this, please send it to me. I'll go ahead and I'm going to share it out to
absolutely
all of the people as well. I'd love for everybody to see it. So.
Absolutely will. 100%. Guys, for those of you watching, thank you for joining us tonight. Join us next week. We will actually have one of Nigel's friends on there. Joe Caroni will be joining us. So Joe will be on the podcast. If you don't know who he is, go look him up. You'll be blown away by his art as well. So join us next week, 9 p.m. Central Time, Thursday. Every Thursday from now on at 9 p.m. Central. So super excited. Jungle, thanks for helping me out on this one. Nigel, thank you so much for joining. Appreciate all you guys. And remember, the force will be with you always.
Well, what have